Yeah, on my end, it looks like it should be good.
Okay, I think it's almost there. Okay. All right, we're here.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much and welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is September 17th, and here's my dear friend Tom. Hello, Tom. So nice to see you.
Hello. Good to see you, Shane.
Thank you for coming, Tom. Before we start our program today, I'd like to introduce to you about Tom a little bit. Tom worked in FBI for almost 30 years, and he served as a assistant director of FBI for 5 years, and he's retired now. And thank you so much again, Tom, to spend time with us every week. And I remember, Tom, 2 months ago, July 17, in our program, we actually discussed about the assassination attempt against President Trump in Pennsylvania. And today we're going to talk about a new assassination attempt against Donald Trump. And this is something made me very sad and outrageous. And I'd like to ask you about your thoughts of what happened in Florida 2 days ago and why this has happened again and again. And I think this is a question that so many people like to ask. And there is another situation right now for the investigation. Florida wants to do their own investigation, not for the federal. So, what do you think about that?
I think it's great. The Florida, I've worked with them in the past. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is essentially like the state FBI, state
Mhm.
investigators, and they're outstanding. And I think in this situation with their governor, DeSantis, having them go ahead on the case, I think is excellent. Now, people don't realize that you can commit a federal violation, which is also a state violation. So, for instance, if you rob a bank
Mhm.
robbery is a federal violation, but it's a state armed robbery violation. So it
Mhm.
could be both, and it can be prosecuted by either side, federal or state. So in the case like this, if you have basically an assassination attempt is an attempted murder on an individual, and in that sense, as a state violation, it doesn't have anything to do with him being the president. The federal violation does, because under the federal guidelines, Secret Service is in charge of the protection, but if something bad happens, the FBI is in charge of the investigation into that, whether the president and numerous other people in the federal government, senators, congressmen, law enforcement agents, cabinet members, any of and all of which, if an attempt is made or actually successful on attacking them, then the FBI is in charge of the investigation. In the case of the state of Florida, they're looking at this as attempted murder, which is a state violation. The weapon, a state violation. So all of these things are concurrently state violations and federal violations. Now, we've had so many accusations that the FBI is biased, Secret Service are biased against Trump, and that they're doing these investigations secretively, not sharing everything, not being, we don't know how actually aggressive they're pursuing the investigation. But we can be assured Florida will investigate thoroughly in this case. It's a state violation, and Governor DeSantis is going to ensure that they don't just do a lackluster job of investigating this. Like I said, I've worked with them in the past. They're excellent. FDLE, Florida
Mhm.
Department of Law Enforcement, and they are exceptional, very good, very professional. And they, along with the county police and the other local authorities here, to me, are trustworthy. Secret Service and FBI, you know, questionable. And then we don't know what they're doing because they don't share completely. And then when you question them 3 years from now, they'll say, oh, the investigation is still pending. We can't talk about it. So Florida will have no such problem.
Mhm. Which is really good. I remember, Tom, you said in our program before that there will be the second time and the third time to try to kill Trump. Here we come. It's happened again. Is there anything that we can do to prevent Trump from this huge danger?
No, the only thing you could do is, Trump could stay in a bubble. He could stay in a bunker from now till the election. He could do like Biden did last time, with COVID. Biden never came out of his basement, essentially. Trump's
Mhm.
not going to do that. He's not going to show fear. He's not going to be intimidated by members of the left who,
Right,
who are coming after him.
right.
And, so these conspiracies are going to continue. And I think the rhetoric doesn't help. You've got so many historians say, if someone had killed, Hitler came to power in 1933 in Germany. He
Mhm,
started, taking over parts of Austria and Czechoslovakia. But the war, World War II, really started in September of 1939 with
mhm,
Hitler invading Poland. And then the war continued until May of 1945,
mhm,
with Hitler apparently taking his own life April 30th, 1945.
mhm,
Now, historians later said that if somebody had killed Hitler in the 30s, as he was before the war started, it would have saved anywhere close to 100 million lives in Europe. The
mhm,
Holocaust, the number of people that died in Russia, for example, other European countries. So the war was devastating, and they're saying Hitler, if he had been eliminated early, 100 million people could have been saved. Well, now in the past, since Trump was elected, or since he ran in 2016, they've been calling Trump Hitler. So
right.
that's like a dog whistle. It's telling people, if you want to save 100 million lives, kill them
Mhm,
now.
mhm,
And then they had all of this. He's going to be Hitler. Hitler comes to the presidency in 2017, and in 4 years, he's one of the best presidents in the history of the country, with the best economy in the history, the best job numbers, the best inflation numbers, best
mhm.
no wars started. All of those indicators of presidential success,
Right.
President Trump achieved. So he didn't become a fascist when he lost or allegedly lost. He left the press. They didn't have to send the army in to take him out of the White House or any of those things. So these kind of accusations coming up now, you think, how stupid can the people be? He didn't do it last time. He didn't go after his enemies last time.
Right.
He didn't
Right.
go after people like Hillary Clinton that clearly violated a series of serious laws. And
Mhm,
then he comes to power, nothing. He does not put the Department of Justice on her. Go get her, put her in jail, do this, do that. He didn't do it. So
mhm,
now all of a sudden, though, in 2024, if he gets elected now, he's going to be Hitler. He's going to be a fascist dictator. He's going to come after his enemy. He's going to do everything that he didn't do the first time. And if anybody went after political enemies, it was the Democrats going after him,
right.
when Biden came to power. So
Oh,
all of these, but meantime, you
mhm,
have these, mentally deficient people, I'll put it that way. Now, I
mhm,
don't know if that's politically correct. I don't care. But you have all of these people out there that hear the president on down saying he's Hitler. The commentators on mainstream media, Trump
mhm,
is Hitler. Trump is a fascist. Trump is going to end democracy. So you
mhm,
have people that are out there thinking, well, gee, I could be a hero and save the world by killing him now. Don't
mhm.
let him back in the White House. Don't let him come back, even though he didn't do it the first time. And he
Yeah.
has an outstanding track record from the first time. Well, we better kill him now. We
Mhm,
better not let him come back to the White House. And it's just unbelievable. But what's unbelievable is that people starting with Biden, Kamala Harris, the people on down, Merrick Garland, you name it, plus the media, which is a kind of an extension of the Democratic Party, unfortunately, mainstream media.
mhm,
So you have all of them in unison saying he's Hitler.
mhm,
Well, so anybody out there, even if they think of themselves as just a patriotic individual, they're going to stop Hitler. So kill Trump now. And I think that's the problem is that these conspiracies, we don't know at this point if they're related. We don't know if the Iranians were behind the first attempt in July and the same people there were behind this attempt. We don't know. And we don't know if, the Secret Service's lackluster performance, their acting director is bragging about what a phenomenal, how lucky were they at the golf course. Just plain lucky. The Secret Service agencies, the barrel of a gun sticking out of a fence post, and they think, okay, assassination, go ahead and shoot that guy. And he gets away. So how'd that guy know? That he sets up on that course, on that particular location. How do you know Trump was going to be golfing that day? Because the Secret Service acting director says, oh, no, it wasn't scheduled. Well, if it wasn't scheduled, how did the information get out to this guy, Ruth, the shooter? Now, what's interesting is that when the president's going to whenever he decided to golf, this guy was already out there for hours. So we don't know when the decision was made. We don't know when the Secret Service, also, when they moved the president, they don't have all the cars in the motorcade and everything. Obviously, the police help. They block traffic. They go to the venue. There's a lot of assistance from state and local law enforcement. So a lot of individuals, their dispatchers, the people in their offices, a lot, you could try to do a study. How many people knew Trump was going to play golf and when did they know it? Well, probably hundreds. Hundreds. It's not a top secret mission to go to the golf course and play golf. So we don't know. And I think that now the question will be, how aggressive will the FBI be to investigate this? They're in charge of the investigation. They're calling it attempted. They're not just saying, well, the guy was trespassing on a golf course and he happened to have an assault rifle. They're saying, seeing the press conference with the special agent in charge of the FBI Miami office and the others, all saying unanimously that it was an attempted assassination of the president. Clear-cut federal violation. Now, separate from that, you have DeSantis, governor of Florida, saying it's also an attempted murder and we're going to investigate. So he's basically saying, he's not saying we're going to help the FBI with their investigation. We're going to help Secret Service. Secret Service doesn't really, the only investigation at this point for the Secret Service is procedurally, what did they do right? What did they do wrong? What changes do they need to make for next time? They're not in charge of the investigation to prosecute this guy for murder. The FBI is. But DeSantis, he doesn't exactly say the FBI and the state and local investigators are going to work together to solve this crime. And I think that, how much they work together, I believe, is going to depend on the FBI. Because if they're arrogant and if they're, protective of this investigation and secretive and doing it the way they've done everything else during the Biden administration, then I think Florida Department of Law Enforcement is a tremendous opportunity for the actual investigative results to come out, to be truthful, and to come out sooner than later, or sooner than never. Because the FBI has a habit now. You could ask the FBI 3 years from now, well, what happened in this assassination or the Pennsylvania attempt? And they'll say, well, we can't talk. It's an active investigation. Nonsense. I was involved in tens of thousands of active investigations where we held press briefings, updates, all of that. So this thing about they can never talk about anything, that's nonsense. They go way too, sometimes it's legitimate, but rarely. Not every time, like the FBI uses to protect itself, like the Hunter Biden investigation, where it was a complete cover-up on their part. So we'll see.
So this, you point a very good question is, Florida wants to do the investigation by themselves as a state level, and FBI, well, they can agree with it and they cannot agree with it. So if FBI said, no, this is our case, we will take the case from here.
No, they'll take the case. FBI, it's their case at the federal level, but it doesn't prohibit state and local authorities from investigating the same crime. So like I said, if you have a bank robbery, the FBI It's a federal violation. The FBI normally investigates bank robberies,
Right.
but it's also an armed robbery in the state and local. The state
Okay.
police or the city police can investigate it as a state crime. They can
Sure.
do it together. They can do it. Now, normally what happens is, especially if there's a lot of them,
Mhm.
um, and as an executive, we would make the decision like, okay, in this case, if no one in the robbery is shot and killed or if,
Mhm.
then the state and locals can take the case.
Mhm.
If it's more serious, there's shots fired or a teller is killed or a customer is killed, the
Mhm.
FBI will keep jurisdiction and do federal prosecution.
Sure.
So it can go either way. And and between the bosses, like
Mhm.
the executive of the FBI and the local special agent in charge, which
Sure.
I had been, and the chief of police or the head prosecutors in that state jurisdiction, they can agree who's going to take the case. Will they work together? Or just, okay, you guys do it. And happens frequently. So you have many crimes that are federal crimes at the same time as their state and local crimes.
Sure. So it brought another question is who has the final say? For example, right now, the guy has been in custody. And right now, FBI and Florida both want this guy. So who will have this guy? Which is the key point of this case.
Well, right now, technically, both would have it because now the case would be
Mhm.
if the FBI has him in custody, will they make him available for state police detectives to interrogate the guy, to interview the guy? I think politically they just about have to. They have to work. They have to appear to work together, even if they hate each other.
Mhm.
So that will depend. Normally, in these kind of cases, the way the decision, and I've been involved in hundreds of these decisions in the past where
Mhm.
you're talking to the local authorities
Mhm.
and lift different local authorities, by the way, talking to each other because different parts of the crime might have happened in different states, different counties.
Mhm.
Um, so normally what would happen in that case is if you're talking to the police in good faith, and
Mhm.
the person in charge of the police isn't an egomaniac and wants all the publicity.
Mhm.
Normally, the way the decision makes is which case looks easier to prove in federal court or state court, and which case will carry the most penalty. So if
I
he
see.
goes to federal court for attempted assassination and is
Mhm.
found guilty, he might get sentenced to 20 years in federal court. If he goes
Mhm.
to state court, maybe let, we don't know. And so
Mhm.
those are the kind of decisions that get made in some cases by the prosecutor. You have the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, which is basically the southern half of Florida.
Right.
And then you have the local prosecutor. Um, and they'll talk to each other and see who has the best chance of a longer penalty, of a longer jail sentence. And a
Mhm.
lot of the decisions come down to that. Who has the easier elements of proving the crime? Which systems, which laws work best? So those are decisions that are usually they're made pretty well. There's a joint decision of who can get the most out of it.
Okay. So I'm just thinking about the FBI as you described, they have their own procedure. And right now under Christopher Wray, they have their so-called specialty to deal with people to hold on the case. So if Florida just say very clearly that we will take the case, and the FBI would say, no, 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 we will take the
Okay,
case.
and well, we're not at that stage. They're not saying that we will take the case. They're saying we will investigate, as
Okay.
well as the FBI is investigating. So there's no clear decision because you also have the egos involved. You have the United States Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to want that case to prosecute as a feather in his hat.
Right.
So it's not just the FBI that wants the case, it's the prosecutor backing up the FBI, which is the United States Attorney's Office. At the state level,
Mm-hmm.
many district attorneys want to go on to run for governor, want to run for, want the
Mm-hmm.
other office. So you have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and then you have the state prosecutors that would prosecute it if they decide to do a local prosecution. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that all we don't know yet. That comes later. And at
Mm-hmm.
this point, we don't know that they're not getting along either. So,
Okay.
in a way, give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they're not getting along, you'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Whistleblowers will say, wait a minute, this side sabotaged our case or vice versa. So these are a combination of political decisions.
Sure.
Which leader is going to get the most out of it politically for his future, his or her future?
Sure.
Or are they going to be legitimately basing their decision on who's going to get the most jail time? Who has the easier case to prove? State court, federal court.
Right. So right now, I think, well, thank you so much for explaining the whole thing, because I think lots of people will think they're going to have a little fight on who will take care of this case. And it sounds like that they can cooperate with each other, which is good.
And we don't know yet. They
Yeah, right.
could, they might not.
It might
Don't
not.
know.
Yeah, we'll see. And talk about the case itself. Do you think it's a one-man plan, or some other people help him? What do you feel about this case?
I don't know. That's difficult to say at this point. And I look at it like, let's investigate and get the facts. So when they get all of his cell phone records and social media records and anything else that he's done, and look at his criminal record,
Right.
the number of crimes he's been convicted of for years that he's been involved in. Now, here's a guy that allegedly has only $300 in his bank account. And he's traveling back and forth between Hawaii and Florida. It would cost you $300 to take the taxi cab to the airport practically at both ends, much less the airplane and everything, the logistics. Where's he staying? Who's he staying with when he's in Florida? Supposedly he owns a house or property or something in Hawaii. But when he goes to Florida, who's supporting logistics? Many times, if you're looking at a military operation or if you're looking at it many times boils down to logistics. How did the people move? Who paid for them? How did they get food? How did they get housing, transportation? All of the aspects that are as important or more than just sticking a gun through a fence and pointing it at somebody.
Right, right. So this information that you are talking about is very important to figure out who he is, if he stay with someone or someone support him, etc. So this kind of information should be very easy to find out within.
Sometimes we don't know if there's an assassination plot and he's being secretly funded and they very discreetly have this plan to get Trump and hide how he gets the money, who supports his transportation, who supports him in this. We don't know that yet. Now, it's clear, too, and one of the things that surprised me right off the bat was that they said he was hiding at that location for over 10 or 12 hours.
Right,
Since 2 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, he's at that place. Now, that means if they know that for a fact, then that means that there's accurate cell phone records coming off his cell phone. Because right now, when your cell phone is turned on, it's sending a signal to the nearest tower. And that tower is locating you to a certain, and then several towers use geometry to decide how you're communicating with the towers where you're at. So, and then that record, you notice how they used that in the January 6th investigation. They used the cell phone towers to triangulate where every defendant was and say, okay, you were here, how long that person was there, when they got there, all of that. And that's what you would use in this case. Now, that is not modern technology. I used that technology. When I was in charge of the Indiana FBI, we had a kidnapping where a woman was taken by 2 people. And the 2 guys took her to West Virginia and they were running around in the mountains. Her cell phone was still on. That's how we got her saved and arrested the 2 bad guys, because we knew exactly where she was by the cell phone. The cell phone's hitting, each time she moves, the cell phones are being connected to a different tower. And then to determine if there's multiple towers, the mathematical equations are built into the system to say, this signal went from your phone to that tower in 1/50,000th of a second, and it went from your cell phone to the other tower in 100,000th of a second. So therefore, you're closer that, so they use all these different towers, and it calculates down sometimes within about 10 feet of where you're at, even more. Back then it was 10 feet. Now it's probably 1 foot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's how, to me, that's probably what they use geolocation to determine that he was at that spot and how long he was at that spot. Because the phone company records would indicate how long his signal is reaching a particular tower.
For 12 hours. That's ridiculous. Yeah. So, but we will find out, hopefully very soon, what's going on with this guy. And then you talk about
well, maybe. Don't be too optimistic yet. Serious.
Well, yeah. Actually, it take 2 months. So do we have some new development on the last assassination attempt at Pennsylvania? Not really.
No, why is that?
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So right now you have the the FBI in charge of the investigation, and it doesn't sound like anybody else is doing anything significant. So where's the Pennsylvania State Police? Where are other, the Pennsylvania authorities have jurisdiction also. He actually shot at the president. He actually wounded the president, which is aggravated battery. So so all of those things already give the state jurisdiction along with the federal government. So we don't know.
Good point. Good point.
You don't hear much. You don't hear regular updates by the FBI of what they're learning, especially what are the connections of that shooter to others, to social media, to you name it.
Right.
Who knows?
There is a situation that people find out is both the bad guy, the killer, is appeared to the commercial of Blackrock. You remember?
Yeah, that's a good question, that they're both apparently present in Blackrock videos. Now, I don't know what the story is there.
There must be some story, I guess.
Could be.
Yeah, right. And
normally in law enforcement, you say there's no such thing as coincidences.
Right.
But to assume a coincidence is one thing, but you have to prove it. So you could find plenty of motives why Blackrock doesn't want Trump to become president. Because if he brings an end to the Ukraine war, if he brings Blackrock is trying to make a fortune in Europe, exploiting the Ukraine war. And the Ukraine, and Blackrock's already talked about it. Zelensky has talked about it. Oh, we're going to welcome Blackrock to help us rebuild. The soil, the earth in the Ukraine is in the farmland of the Ukraine is about a foot deep of enriched soil. And in fact, that soil is so good for farming, better than, here in the United States, it might only be this, 4 inches deep or 2 inches, depending on how much we've used that field. But in the Ukraine, the soil is so phenomenally outstanding, full of nutrients and everything you need to grow a plant. Is so much so that in World War II, Hitler, again, that famous Hitler tried to gather Ukrainian soil and bring it to Germany because the soil is so good. So he was trying to stock up on Ukrainian soil.
Right, just like oil.
Like oil.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So anyway, what the U.S. companies, BlackRock, Monsanto, some of these others, are they looking at dollar signs with the Ukraine and Russia? When Biden was talking about we're gonna use Ukraine, they're gonna take over Russia, they're gonna bring about regime change, so Putin will be out, we'll be able to exploit all of the resources of Russia. Well, all of these companies, they're dancing in the streets. If they're looking at having any opportunity to loot the mineral resources, other resources of Russia, it's unbelievable because so much of their resources have not even been exploited yet. So in a way, it's one of the richest countries on the planet.
Right, right. So yeah, this is the essential of the war. Why they have the war? You have some narrative, but the real reason is behind, and lots of people just don't know. So this.
That was one of the real reasons Hitler used for the invasion
Mhm,
of Eastern Europe and Operation Barbarossa, which was the invasion of the Soviet Union at the time. He
mhm,
said at the time, we don't have enough living space in Germany,
mhm,
farming space. We're going to take over these countries so we have more land to exploit, to farm, to grow things, and to enrich our country.
mhm.
So land many times is the absolute key resource to why a country invades another country.
Right. Especially like a great soil at Ukraine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then you talk about Hillary Clinton, and she actually went out yesterday, the day after the assassination attempt at MSNBC, and she just said Trump is very, very dangerous, threat to our country, to the democracy. And what do you think?
Yeah, you wonder now, does
She,
Trump does Trump regret when he became president that he didn't have the Department of Justice really, really go after the serious crimes she committed?
yeah.
Instead, she got a complete pass, and now all these years later, she's back. Like in the horror movies where they think they killed the monster, and
Exactly.
they go about their business, and all of a sudden the door opens and there's the monster back. They
Right, right.
didn't really kill it, and that's Hillary reminds me of that. She's just a recurring monster.
Hmm. She doesn't care, and she doesn't even to pretend. It's just second day, and she just came out and said Trump is so dangerous to the democracy, which is got almost got killed for two times.
Yeah,
I just
that
don't know.
just makes you look at who's more dangerous, the left or the right. How
Right,
many attempts have been made to kill Kamala Harris? How many
exactly,
attempts were made to kill Biden? How many attempts
exactly,
were killed to do any of that against the
right,
left or the progressive movement
right.
compared to the number of times this happening over and over against the right by the left? So it's just interesting. The things that they accuse the right of doing is what they do. It's what
I
they're doing.
Yeah. And I just don't know if people still cannot see very clearly that what Democrats really are. These
I don't
people are
I
just,
don't know. I have to confess, everybody has always said since I was a little kid, well, the voters will come to the right decision. You can trust the voters and you can trust our voters in the United States. And I'm getting to the point where I don't trust them. Our voters, to me, the fact that they're so close in the polls tells me we have a large number of voters in this country that are absolute morons. They don't know, they don't look at the facts. They don't want to know the facts. They just know they don't like Trump, therefore everything else doesn't matter.
right, right. That
They
is
cannot even cite policies that Trump put in place that were bad. They just say we don't like his personality, so he's bad.
so the if there is a problem, I can see this we have a huge problem on education.
You do? Well, that we know, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else we can say? And a little bit about debate. What did you see the debate? What do you think about the debate?
Uh, I thought Trump was not at his best. That's what I thought.
Hmm.
So I know people that support Trump said he won, and people that support Kamala, she won. Well,
Hmm.
I think the fact is Trump may have won on a technicality that when he talked about policy, his policies are way better than any policy she ever says, except when she copies him.
Hmm.
Like, no tax on tips or all that. That was his idea.
Hmm.
But, uh, you know, Trump, I think, could have done much better than he did.
Hmm. Do you think he doesn't care about the debate? He's
No, I don't think that. I just think that he's made the same statements at his rallies over
right,
and over and over.
right.
And it's just easy for him. What do you think about this? And he goes into what he thinks about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't know. I think Trump may have underestimated her. Because the
Hmm.
problem is with her is she can't think an original thought that's intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But if you spend 4 days feeding her with lies
Clean her.
and controlled answers, she's
Mm-hmm.
not bad finally at that. She didn't do too bad at that. Although over and over again, it was a lie. And they
Mm-hmm.
bring up the same lies, even though they've been completely debunked.
Mm-hmm.
But, like Charlottesville, Biden and her, they keep bringing up Trump at Charlottesville, showing he's a white supremacist.
Mm-hmm.
The whole statement that Trump made after the Charlottesville riots in Virginia
Mm-hmm.
was that he denounced neo-whites, white supremacists, Nazis,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. He completely denounced them. There's no place for them in our society.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to the thing of should we tear down all of these monuments, Robert E. Lee and some of the other that were heroes of the South, should we tear the monuments down? Then is when he said, there are good people on both sides of that argument, which is true. You
Mm-hmm.
have good people supporting, don't tear those monuments down, not because they support Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson or the other heroes of the South, but because they were historical figures.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the
Right.
statues up so people can see that was history. These guys all lined up to dethrone the United States government and failed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so they're monuments to failure, if anything.
Right.
But so there are good people on that side that say, maybe we really shouldn't tear down history. History is history.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so when he said there are good people on both sides of that argument, they made that to say that he's supporting good people are supporting the Nazis and the
Mm-hmm.
white supremacists and all of that, which is they've told that lie, and she told it again in the debate. It's
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over. They tell the same lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she, had so many of those lies that she has been spewing that stuff out for a long time. It's almost like, well, she said it so many times, it must be true. Biden has said it so many times, must be true.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then, did you hear that ABC has a whistleblower come
Yeah.
out and said, what do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Well, two things. I'm not surprised, that they were collaborating with, trying to help her out.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it was pretty obvious what the questions would be if she
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. I mean, right at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
Right.
Quick answer. The whole population would say, except for crooks, would say, no, we're not better off.
Mm-hmm.
She just completely evades the answer. So if somebody told her they're going to ask you that question, and when they ask you, change the subject,
Mm-hmm.
well, should have been able to figure out that you're going to be asked a question like that, change the subject. So I think a lot of the questions that she was asked were obvious that
Mm-hmm.
she'd be asked them, or that Trump would be asked them, and she'd have a chance to get in on rebuttal. But I don't know. I think that I don't know. Yeah, that she might have gotten help from ABC,
Mm-hmm.
but she shouldn't have needed the help, and it shouldn't have mattered.
Mm-hmm. Is this against some policy that one of the debaters have the questions before the debate? Is that okay
No, it's
to?
not okay. But I'm just saying that it's not the end of the world. She should have, even without the questions,
Right.
her people that prepared her for the debate should have known exactly what's coming.
Mhm.
Almost exactly. That question would be number one. It was number one. What do
Oh,
you
yeah,
think of fracking? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Those were all
right.
so obvious that
Mhm.
they would ask her. So I
Right.
think that whether she knew it in advance, okay, they're going to ask you that. Well, hey, stupid, of course they're going to ask you that.
Right. 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 And people just talk about a lot about the fact check. They only do the fact check with Trump, not even one with Kamala
Yeah,
Harris.
that part's true because they could have fact checked the Charlottesville statement and many
Right.
of the other statements. No question about that. That's
Right.
different than knowing the questions in advance.
Right.
So if you know the questions in advance, then you know the answers you're going to give in advance. But as
Right.
far as fact checking, the only
Mhm.
question there was if you lie, they're gonna know you're lying. And
Right.
the Democrats, Biden, her, others, don't care. Okay, go ahead, call us liars.
Yeah,
Nothing,
that's their
nothing new.
attitude. That's
Yeah.
there. Thank you. And also, I'm just curious about the whistleblower said Kamala team just tell ABC there are certain questions that you cannot ask. They have three certain questions. I will not go to the detail, but I just wonder that is that okay for the debater tell like the moderator that some questions you cannot ask? Is that okay or is not okay?
It's okay to say it, but
Okay.
it's wrong for the moderators to follow it. Because if she says, don't ask me this, then ask that. If her team tries to put up limits, you can't go here, go there.
Right, right.
And I think that that's different again than knowing the questions in advance. You put up questions you're not going to answer.
Right,
So that's
right.
fine. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your inputs. It's yeah, it's very important for people to understand the details about what happened there. And then so for the last but not the least, most I think is the most important question that how can we protect Trump? That's a big question, and he doesn't want to stay in the house for his own safety. He will go out and do his job.
Well,
So,
the answer there is that they have to put enough Secret Service agents everywhere he goes, put a bigger detail. One of the criticisms of the FBI for years was that, well, they don't use intelligence. I ran the organized crime program worldwide for 5 years,
mhm,
and all of our cases were initiated or enhanced or successful because of intelligence, because you're gathering the information that you need to run those kind of cases. So I think that Secret Service to be able to say, well, the president gets this many and the vice president and a candidate gets
right,
X number of, no, what are the threats based on intelligence?
mhm,
Intelligence is telling you that there is probably a worldwide conspiracy to kill Trump, to not let Trump win, to not let, if he does win, to not let him become president. If he does become president, not let him stay in office, kill him. They've tried everything else, all these prosecutions and everything else, lawfare.
mhm,
The last resort, and many experts have said, the only thing left is they're going to try to kill him. And now we've had 2 attempts in 65 days to kill him. And we're still, months, weeks away from the election,
mhm,
weeks away from inauguration after the election, and on and on. So I think that the estimation that they're trying to kill him, no one's been trying to kill any other ex-president. How many
right,
people are trying to kill Jimmy Carter,
mhm,
or George Bush? He was golfing at the same time that Trump was golfing. So you have key intelligence saying Iran wants to kill Trump.
mhm,
Left-wing progressives want to kill Trump. Insane people want to kill Trump. All of these things, then you start putting enough resources there. If you have Secret Service agents in other cities where there's no threat going on or serious threat, you bring them to the locations where there is a threat. And right now, that's anywhere near and around Donald Trump.
right. You're right. Yeah, and I remember Florida, it's an officer from Florida, and he said Trump is not a sitting president. So he will not got as much as the protection that he should.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is wrong, actually. I really appreciate you point out is we're not saying that this is a sitting president or this is not sitting president. We'll see the threaten, who has the most to threaten to take off their life.
When you look at the statements made in the press conference, the acting director of Secret Service, he reminds me, he was number 2 to the last director, and she was no good. And he was following her policies. So he reminds me of Kamala Harris. She was number 2 to Biden and went along completely with everything Biden did. And
Right,
then Biden's out not running. So now she could do what she wants, which is basically the Biden
right,
policy. Well,
right.
now look at him. He was going along with everything she wanted, and
Mhm,
now he's the acting director. So I don't trust him either.
right. Me neither. Me neither. So it's there are some news said, I'm not confirmed the news yet, but there are so many thousands of ventures. They come out and said we can do the protection job. Some of the protection job that we can do is out of the reach of Secret Service, but some outside security they want to come out protect Trump. But anyhow, it doesn't matter it's true or not. We as American people just realize that how dangerous again Trump face right now, and
Yeah.
it is a shame to this country to attempt assassinate candidates of the president for 2 times. And then I saw some news and people just saying that there will be another one. And if it fail again, and will be another one. It won't stop. Just like what you said before, you said Trump is in danger all the way back to his presidency. If he go back to White House, the danger will still come with him.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. So the only way is to enhance his protection. That's the only way we can do. And also to have the Democrats stop spread some wrong words about Trump.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do?
No, I don't think they're going to stop.
Mhm.
So that's going to continue. And there's going to be people out there across the land, across the world that are going to hear that and feel like it's their duty to
Mhm.
prevent Trump from being president. So the only way to really prevent it is kill him. And I think that there's so many, I don't know, mentally ill, mentally incompetent, stupid, whatever,
Mhm.
people out there that think they're going to be a hero if they kill Trump.
Well, so we just pray for Trump's safety and pray that more and more people can wake up and realize that how dangerous he is, and then knowing that when someone, especially the Democrats, compare Trump to Hitler is so stupid. It is not true at
No, it's
all.
dangerous. And but the problem is the whole public can say, we want Trump protected. We want Trump to be safe. We want to be able to not vote for him. We want him to live and say, we don't want him to be president, but we want to do it through the election. But, the problem is 350 million people out there. How many mentally deranged people do we have out of that? How many does it take? How many did it take to kill Kennedy? How many would it take to kill Trump? Right now, they're doing it one at a time. So if there's a real serious conspiracy out there, if they have 2 or 3 people teamed up to do this, it's going to be almost impossible to stop it.
Right. Right. Well, thank you so much for the information that you share with us. And then we all know that right now is a dangerous period of time. And
Very,
yeah, so
very.
we should be prepared and also just support Trump and just do whatever we can break this saying, this narrative to hurt Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I have many our audience and just say hi and thank you, Tom, for spending time with us. And then we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you, Tom. Really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Take care, Cheyenne.
Bye-bye. Thank you.